It's an exciting week around here with basketball starting up. We all get in the spirit of watching the basketball teams play and hope they have a great year. Our women's soccer team, it's unbelievable how well they did in the tournament. They won the tournament, and now they're going to the NCAA, so that's exciting stuff. And it's really exciting they get to play a Pac-12 team, because I don't know if you got this from Coach Friesen or not. I listened to his interview, and he said the resource gap is growing, which it is, tremendously growing. So they have some advantages that we don't have, but I didn't hear one word of him being afraid of playing a Pac-12 team. And I think that's a common theme in this athletic department. I mean, we're all pulling for each other. We like each other. We expect each other to win. And the best part about it is we have less resources by a bunch, but that doesn't mean we don't get excited about playing them, and we're not scared. And since we don't play this week, I'm going to predict that we win. We always beat by. So it's kind of a good day that way, too.
And then, of course, obviously your offensive line did pretty decent. Gained over 500 yards on the ground, but having the whole week off to recover from their minor injuries, what does that really mean?
Well, I think the offensive line, other than Antonio Rosales, is been getting healthier over the last couple of weeks. They're not completely healthy, but this time of year, nobody is completely healthy that has played in games. This week, since we're only practicing 3 days, it will give the offensive line a chance to get even healthier than they are right now. They won't be completely healthy, but we would love to get our senior back. He's the only senior we have in the offensive line, and hopefully with this whole week of not doing anything, by next Monday he'll be ready to go and get to play his last couple games.
Do you use this bye week as kind of a mini camp for the younger kids?
Do not, other than we're going to practice today and tomorrow, just like we normally do, except that we're training for the last two teams on our schedule, not just one. We're going to try to get some things in for both those teams that we're playing. We'll do that for a half of Thursday's practice, and then the second half of Thursday's practice, we're going to have a game between the scout teams. The scout team offense will play against the scout team defense. The GAs will be their coaches. Our coaches will be the officials, and usually it's a lot of fun to watch. There's a lot of mistakes being made out there, but there's a lot of crashes going on out there. There's a lot of people running into each other, which is really fun to be around and watch, because that's why all of us liked football in the first place.
Can you remember, Brian Dutch is about to coach his first game as a head coach this week. Do you remember your first game as a head coach, and what kind of advice would you have?
I don't have any advice. I mean, it'll be interesting, because I talked to a first-time head coach before the game last week at San Jose, and it's hard for me to remember that far back, but it was interesting to talk to him, because his view of things were completely different than my view of things. I think you have Coach Dutcher's a very experienced coach that has had the authority that a lot of the authority that head coaches have. So I don't think it's a big deal to him. I think it's just a natural transition. He'll have some moments, though, because the head coach never knows exactly what you're getting into until it happens. Even though you've been around a long time and you think that you know what to expect, it's not even close to what I expected. So he'll have some of those. He won't have as many as most, because he's been around so long.
What was the moment for you?
Well, I'm going to tell you that as a conversation with the San Jose coach, he said, you know what? All those times I was complaining about what head coaches do, I'm doing the same damn thing. So that it's funny how when you have all these suggestions and all these ideas on how to change things until you get to be the guy, and then you actually find out there are things that you cannot do because of the way the entire organization works. And then in the Cal State system, I mean, we're working with a very small budget compared to most people that we're playing against. And he was complaining about that. And I said, it's not getting better. So you might as well get used to it. It's not getting better.
What does it mean for the program to have Donald Pumphrey rush to be the nation's leading rusher last year, and then back-to-back years having Rashad Penny right now leading the nation? What does that mean?
Number one, it means that we have a chance to win. When you have good players, you have a chance to win. Number two, it means that we're able to recruit good running backs around here, and I think a lot of that has to do with the system we run on offense. Our coaches do a great job of evaluating talent because we don't get the five-star recruits and all those kind of things that most people think are guaranteed to be good players. So our coaches do a very nice job of evaluating talent, and we get guys in here that fit our system that end up being really good players. I mean, when you think about Pumphrey and Rashad and splitting time last year, that's probably as good as anybody ever has had. And now hopefully next year, Juwan Washington and whichever one of those four young running backs becomes the backup, we'll have the same thing again next year.
Is there any, you mentioned getting the kind of guys you want for your system and not having as much access to the five-star guys, the type guys as power conferences might. Is there a drawback sometimes to those guys? Is there, in this age of entitlement, in a way, would you rather have guys that have that chip on their shoulder than have to deal with that?
I don't know if I've ever thought of it that way. I think of it, whatever situation you're in, you do the very best you can with the situation you're in. So I don't know if a five-star guy acts more entitled than our guys or not. We get a lot of guys here that think they're entitled until they get into our program and find out they're not. And I would guess it would be the same way if you recruited a bunch of five-star guys. They would come entitled until they found out the way the program's run, and they would choose either to stay or not stay. What happens in a program is once you get your program established is your players recruit for you. So you have very little chance of getting players that don't fit in after you've been in charge for 4 or 5 years because they tell the recruits exactly how it's going to be. So if the recruit is not into that, he doesn't come here. And if he kind of likes that idea, he comes here. So after 3 or 4 or 5 years, you'll have an issue or two, but you don't have a lot of issues. When you're a brand new head coach, you have a lot of issues because you've got guys in the program that don't believe in the way you do things. And until you start recruiting and get guys that believe that, you have a little bit of trouble.
Is that one of the intangible things that has helped make this program superb? Is the washout attrition rate has kind of gone away?
I think it's totally how your players recruit for you. When I came in with Brady Hoke, Brady did a lot of things. Brady and I have very similar philosophies on how to do things. And Coach Hoke did a lot of things that the players here weren't used to, and we had a dramatic number leave. Even in the first 2 weeks, I can remember 10 scholarship kids walking out of here in the first 2 weeks that we were here. So obviously we were doing it different than they were recruited to, and they didn't like the change, so they moved on.
What did you do different?
I don't want to get into it.
I'm sure Christian Chapman.
It wasn't fun, let's put it that way.
I'm sure Christian Chapman only throwing 5 times Saturday is not what a 5-star recruit quarterback would want, but as in terms of the quarterback, the level of Christian Chapman, maybe a 3-star recruit. What do you say, Christian's about a 3-star recruit?
I don't remember what they are. We have some guys on our team that end up very good players that end up in the NFL that are no-star recruits. So I don't remember what he was. I don't look at the stars. I heard that we have 1 4-star recruit on our team. Someone told me, some recruiting service told me that. Kiava Tizino, I guess, was a 4-star recruit out of high school.
I mean, completing 4 passes and 5 attempts might not get you a Heisman, but I mean, Christian Chapman had a good game. I think does that attitude of putting aside the stats, the individual stats for the team.
I think that we get team players here, and our kids recruit team players because we know we don't. We don't want those other kind around here. And I don't think our team wants other guys like that around here, so they make sure they know how it's going to be. And that's a prime example. That's a great example. A quarterback that only throws, I don't know how many passes he threw. How many did you say? 5? And then Agnew threw 2. We threw 7 passes or 6 passes in a game. Yeah, I would say that wouldn't attract a 5-star quarterback. I would say that that might not attract him. Plus, we don't run the spread. And the quarterbacks nowadays want to throw it 50 times, so.
Speaking of recruiting and players, with the new signing date rules coming in, what do you think that's going to be like?
I'm not sure, but I think it's great for us. Because we get to find out that the kids that are committed to us, they're really committed or they're not really committed. Because the kids that are committed to us, if they don't sign in December, we're dropping them. Because that means they're not sure. And so that eliminates a lot of indecision that we have from December until the first Wednesday in February. It also eliminates the amount of time that the Power 5 guys can find out which guys they get and which guys they lose. And it eliminates the time that they can come running back and try to steal our recruits. So I don't know if it's good for them, but it's really good for us.
Do you think you'll sign players in December?
I think we're going to sign more than you think. I think we're going to sign almost half our class in December.
Has that been communicated all along, that your expectation of them is that they will sign in December and not be waiting?
A young man that commits to us is told to make sure, before he commits to us, to make sure he understands what that commitment means, because we expect them to sign in December. And I'm sure we might lose 1 or 2 in December that says they want to think about it a little bit longer. Well, they can think about going somewhere else then.
And of course, if they sign December and they have the credits to graduate from high school, theoretically they could take classes during the spring semester of 2018, maybe do some spring practice with you. Is that
We discourage that. There's some schools that like that idea, that they can graduate in December from high school. They bring them in January. That way they can compete and go through spring practice and maybe play for you the next year. We discourage that because I think the most fun I've ever had in my life was my second semester, my senior year in high school. And you're all smiling because you had just as much fun as I did. And I think it benefits those young men to stay in high school for their last semester of their senior year, because they will always remember. And even if, they come a semester later or a year later, they will be better football players 6 months or 12 months from the time they could have been there in January anyway, because of maturity. So it works both ways, but mostly it's because I think they ought to experience that. I don't know how much fun you guys had. I had a lot of fun. I can still remember some of the stuff I did. I'm not telling you what it was, but you know what? The teachers didn't care if you showed up or not. They didn't. That second semester, they didn't care. You were going to graduate no matter what you did, because they wanted to get rid of you.
on the other side of that, do you discourage your recruits from playing winter or spring sports for risk of injury? Or?
No, not at all. In fact, we don't discourage them from playing in all-star games in August, because once again, that's an experience that they'll never get a chance to have again. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll get to play in an all-star game in college, but it's not the same. When you go to college, you're not going to be able to play multiple sports. There are a few people that do it, but very few people that do it. We try to recruit multi-sport athletes because I think they're better athletes overall, and they are conditioned better, and they can change directions better. They jump higher and all that if they play more than one sport. I think that they ought to play as many sports as they want to play, and they ought to enjoy it while they can. So we don't discourage any of that. And sometimes we get a kid hurt or two, but guess what? They get well. They just play a year later than they would have played, and most of the time that's good. In most cases, that's good.
Rocky, we know that coming out of the bye, you guys will win your final 2 games, but
wondering, with your expert knowledge, what's the probability of Fresno State losing 2 of their final 3?
I don't think about that. I really don't. All I think about is us trying to win our last 2, and we'd be very happy if we won our last 2. That's their business. I think, and you've heard me say this, I think that I made an error before our Boise State game talking about stuff like that, and this team's not ready to talk about stuff like that. This team is a team that talks about next week, and if we get ahead of ourselves, we don't play worth a darn. And I think that was a coaching error. Some teams can handle it, some can't.
The bye week and extra hours for the assistant coaches, what do they use that time?
Our coaches left, some of them left right after the game Saturday. Most of them left Sunday morning and went recruiting Sunday and Monday. Some of them didn't get back till early this morning. As soon as practice is over on Thursday, they'll go back out on the road. They'll see games on Friday night and Saturday night. They'll visit at high schools, except this Friday's a vacation. And then some of the high schools, it's even a vacation on Monday. But we'll get to a lot of games, and we'll get to see some players in person. The players will know that we're there. And then we get back to work like normal next Sunday.
How much of that is seeing players who have already committed that you're just trying to reaffirm that commitment, and how much?
A lot of it is making sure we go to games of kids that have committed to us just to make sure they know that we care. And I'll probably be at a game Friday night and Saturday night too, here in town. And if they're nice to me, I get to stand on the sidelines so the kid makes sure he sees me. Sometimes they make it kind of hard.